welcome back. We are discussing the important impact that fitness and sport have on our body as we age. Now, my husband, Doug, is an avid cyclist, squash player, and hiker, and tennis player. Take a look.
I've done about 3,000 kilometers this season. I did 80 kilometers the other day. We're lucky to be in Toronto. There's Lakeshore East, Lakeshore West, Don Valley Trail, Humber River. The physical health's important. I think getting out like this, normally with friends, but sometimes on my own, it's good physically, it's good mentally, it's good, I don't want to sound hokey here, good for companionship. You have the great Canadian outdoors. Here's Lake Ontario. We've got these beautiful trees behind us. The Martin Goodman Trail East is right here, so we're lucky and I take advantage of it.
Now, Doug, so Doug's my husband, and on days when you can't get out, you're not happy. And
you're right about that. Absolutely right about that. And as we were just discussing, there is some risk involved to it. And what you basically find is on a bike, you see how bad a lot of other cyclists are, to be perfectly honest. And you see how terrible most car drivers are. So when you're on a bike, I've also raced my car, other people aren't watching, and you've got to really assume they're idiots, and often they are idiots, and they're not seeing where you're coming from. So that's important.
Well, about 2 years ago, you had a bad bike accident. Fortunately, you were with a friend.
Yes.
I was terrified. I thought, okay, this is going to be it, because you had a concussion, and I've never seen anyone recover so quickly from a concussion. And I think you were just telling me about other little accidents that I'm just finding out about now.
Okay, so I've cycled a lot with 3 other people, so 4 of us. All 4 of us have had fairly bad accidents. 2 of the 4 people had their helmets split. 2 of the 4 people had accidents with cars, and 2 of them didn't. So my helmet didn't split. I did go to, 3 of the 4 of us went to emergency. I had a severe concussion. I had abrasions all over my face. I had stitches in my hands and so on. And I was going down a fairly steep hill, probably a little too fast. It was loose gravel. If you put it, basically, once you brake on gravel, you're kind of sunk, to be perfectly honest. If you put the brakes on, you're just going to skid. And then another accident, I told you about this, just in August, I was going along the Lakeshore East, which is where this was filmed, and this young woman was coming towards me, kind of hobbling back and forth on a rental bike, no helmet and so on. And at the last minute, there's a line down the middle. She's headed straight for me. I yelled at her, put the brakes on. I went head over heels, a perfect front flip. And the guy behind me said, "It's because you're fit." And I managed somehow to roll away from the asphalt, so I landed on the ground, and I literally just wiped myself up and got up and took off. But it's
scary.
It can be scary. And finally, no advertisement, but anybody, the city's listening, a lot of the bike lanes are terrible. You go up, say, University Avenue, bike lane, bike lane, bike lane, then there's nothing. And the street narrows, and then the bike lane continues. So the roads were, a lot of them were built in the 1950s. They were not built to accommodate cyclists. So it's kind of a higgly-piggly mix of good places to cycle and not so good places to cycle.
Injuries, and especially we're looking at cycling, that can be quite dangerous.
Yeah, I think any sport that you do has a certain component of danger. Pretty much anything, even like snooker, you get poked with a cue, it's uncomfortable. So a little bit of danger, especially if you're in the UK. So as far as recovery from injury goes, Inge, you put it like perfect. You can sum it up in 4 letters. And that is M-O-V-E. You move. And it used to be a case where it would be like, you've got to rest, you've got to elevate, do all these different things and recover. But now it's really like everything sort of spinning round where you've got to start moving as soon as you possibly can, get up and move, and the body will start to heal itself.
Just to flip this around, one of my goals is, I'm not that great an athlete, I'm just very keen, is to be able to play when I'm Inge's age and don't get injured, seriously. You may have avoided injuries in tennis, but I haven't. If you play any racket sports, you're going to eventually get, elbow, rotator cuff, maybe wrist, knees for sure, in almost any sport. And the key is to give yourself enough time to recover that you don't go back on the court or continue doing the sport before you're ready to
Well,
train?
one of the reasons is tennis players, not so much squash, but tennis players, people suffering from elbow and shoulder injuries is because they don't hit the ball properly.
Exactly, yes, but...
Are you saying I don't hit the ball properly?
No, I'm just
You're probably
saying
right.
No, it's true.
But you know, when you get to be a certain age, it's hard to change the way you hit the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. But you have to force yourself.
Now, what about this big debate about whether you hurt yourself a little bit? Is it cold or heat?
It depends. People are starting to get away from icing stuff straight away. Yeah. Because the way that the body responds is it sends a lot of stuff into the area and pulls a lot of the stuff out of the area that's been damaged. So if you close everything down, yeah, it can't send more fluid and stuff like that into the area to keep the swelling down, but it can't get rid of the stuff either. So it's a fine balance between cold and heat. So if you do injure yourself and it's a tear, there's some damage there, then I'd always go and see a professional to make sure that you get the balance of the two right. But to speak to your point there, Doug, about when you train, you're building a resilient body. Right. If you train, every single person that trains is going to pick an injury up at some point. If you go out in the rain, you're going to get wet. Right. Do you see what I mean? But as soon as you start to build a strong, resilient body, you should bounce back from those sort of things relatively quickly. But I agree 100%. Don't do anything when it's acute. What you should do is recover, and then please do not just jump straight back into the sport that you were doing before you got injured.
My knees, I've been told that I have advanced arthritis, and I've been told that I should get knee replacements, and I, before my last illness, was still able to play 3 times a week, but never with ice when I hurt myself. My chiropractor says heat. But anyway, we'll hold it right there. We have more after the break.